This is a story called Our Fondest School Day Memories. I remember when I was in primary school I used to love playing kiss catch, which was where the girls would chase the boys and if we caught them we kissed them. This drove the boys crazy just like it did when they did the same to us girls. My best friend became my one and only victim. The reason for that was we were both quite small for our age and he was the only one I could catch. I won't mention John's name because John will most likely either rip my head off, chew me up and spit me out, kill me, or all three. I remember how the teachers used to join in and play with us, especially when we played games like Wallflowers, which I think was where you had your backs to each other and we held hands and went round in a circle singing Wallflowers, Wallflowers, here we are again. I loved this, especially if the teachers lost their balance and fell over, because that was really funny when that happened. I also remember the teachers playing Farmers in the Den with us. This was where we all formed a circle and joined hands and walked round the person in the middle, singing the farmer's in his den, the farmer's in his den, E-I-N-G-O, the farmer's in his den. When I was in middle school we played What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor, which I think was where a group of people linked hands and threw you up in the air. When it was my birthday I hated it when I was given a bump, so I stayed out of the way of the other kids so I wouldn't get them. I remember playing London Bridge is falling down. I think that was where two people had held hands in like a triangle shape and the others went underneath and we sang the song London Bridge is falling down, but I'm not sure. There was a teacher at Broadlane Middle School called Mr. Woodruff who put me in detention once, but I can't remember why. All I remember is I was playing with my friends in the school playground and Mr. Woodruff grabbed my arm and took me in to do the detention. I hated Broadlane Middle School because I was petrified of just about every teacher there. If kids misbehaved, they had board rubbers thrown at their heads or were hit with a ruler or caned. Some kids were brought in front of the whole school and hit with a slipper during assembly. Thankfully, none of that ever happened to me. I remember Mr. Woodruff kept Mars bars and other sweets in a cupboard in his classroom, and if you went near them or you took any, you were in big trouble and he would go crazy. The teachers weren't the main reason I was scared of that school. The school opened in 1900 and was a primary and middle school until 1976, when it became just a middle school and I was absolutely terrified of the main building. I hated having to go in there to classes and stuff because I kept hearing her story that the school was haunted because a boy jumped off the big steeple and killed himself. I was glad when I left there after 4 years and moved up to high school in 1985. That was a huge relief to me. That building still scares me now, even though it's no longer a school, and has now been converted into flats and houses. And houses have been built where the playground and porta cabins were. When I moved up to high school, I was always in detention, mostly for not doing my homework and for being late for school. It was very rare I did my homework and very rare I did detention. Every time I didn't do detention I was given another one, which of course I didn't do. I remember one of the teachers, Mr. Dickens I think his name was, shouting out to me from a school window and saying to me, "Julie Hansel, get back here now." Of course I didn't do it. I just ran like hell and got as far away from school as I possibly could. My fondest high school memory is of all the times I was sent out of class for giggling, talking and messing about. When this happened I'd stand outside the classroom and when the teacher wasn't looking I'd look through the window in the classroom door and pull funny faces at everyone. As you can imagine, this distracted everyone from doing their work and made them giggle. Now I have shared all my Fondest school day memories with you all. I'm now going to share the memories that other people have shared with me. My mum. I was sat in music lesson and we always had to shut our eyes and be quiet. My friend wouldn't stop talking, so the teacher lifted her up off the chair and took her out of the hall. I peeped and looked on the floor and all I could see was my friend's shoes but not her. I couldn't stop laughing and the teacher took me out and took me to see the head teacher, who hit me hard on the hand with a ruler. I couldn't stop laughing all day because all I could think about was my friend's shoes and her not wearing them. I remember another day I hid behind the school piano because I didn't like playing outside, and the teacher said, "I know you're there, June," and I said, "I'm not." Family member. I loved the sports days we had and things like winning medals and stickers. I also loved the funny class moments. Another family member. Primary school was best, especially the trip to Haworth for 4 nights. I remember bunking with my best friend and we went to the Bronte Museum and a copper called PC Max came to see us. Jenny, my friend from drama. I used to love making daisy headbands and necklaces and to blow dandelion until all the buds were gone. I loved to play hopscotch and skipping on my own and with my friends. I liked to play on the school field when it was warm and eating ice lollies. At primary school we had a play area made of tyres and it was amazing. We had a garden with veg and fruit and flowers in it. When we had our leaving disco we had an amazing time dancing and playing games. Graham Thompson, Intake High School Facebook group. When I went to high school this big sod beat me up for the first 2 days and on day 3 at 2 o'clock he said, "I'm going to do you at home time." Well, we were all sat in class and I was bricking it. So at 2:30 I thought, if I'm going to get smashed, so are you. I was sat 2 rows behind him and I stood up and gently picked up my wooden chair, snuck up behind him and smashed it over his head. Blood was everywhere and I got suspended. When I went back to school he never touched me again in 4 years. Shane Reed, Broadland Middle School Facebook group. I remember playing Gino by Texas Midnight Runners on my trumpet in the youth club dining room and making memories. I had a great time at Broad Lane. The productions and sports days were all great. I was in Blue House. I remember Mr. Sue saying, "I break your neck and crack your skull." Joanne Roebuck, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I started Broad Lane in 1971. Miss Taylor and her guitar was my first teacher. I adored that lady. Then I had Miss Morley, Mrs. Morton, Mrs. Tiffany and Miss Sainsbury. I remember us warming our feet on the pipes in the cloakrooms of the prefabs and drinking water from the big sink in the toilets when the pipes weren't frozen. It then went to a middle school only. I remember the dance class with Mrs. Cook and doing cross-country around the park. I enjoyed sports day and was in Red House. I remember Shane Reed entertaining us at youth club. I loved dancing to Bucks Fizz at the school disco. I took part in the 4th year production and I played the head of the dragon. I remember the trip to Hebden Bridge in the 2nd year and Fort Paul in the 4th year. I remember a boy giving himself food poisoning. All of us 13-year-olds thought he was going to die. Mick Locke, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I was at Broad Lane from about 1968 to 1975 and they were the best days ever, to be honest. I remember in Mr. Two's class once I was messing about, as per usual, when he said, "What's so funny?" I said that my friend had just told me a joke, even though he hadn't. I was told to go and tell the whole class what the joke was. I then had to think of a joke, sharpish, but it worked, and I even got a round of applause. Those were happy days. Bev Forsberg, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I remember the cloakroom pegs with your name on. I remember dancing round the maypole to come into your web, said the spider to the fly. I remember the playground being full of blossom. I remember the May Queen and the King took exhibition where I tasted my first black olive. I remember Mr. Wall's stories and Mr. Peacock teaching us to write neatly. I remember taking over as Angel Gabriel at St. Peter's Church at the last minute when the boy who was supposed to take the part became sick and Mr. Sellers wishing me luck. I remember the school secretary, Mrs. Gabriel, and the school caretaker, Mr. Shalito. I also remember the time we went on a skiing trip to Scotland when a guy broke his leg getting off the coach before he even had the chance to put a ski on. Dawn Marge, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I started at Broad Lane in 1976 and I was in Red House. I used to like playing British Bulldogs in the schoolyard and listening to Mr. Wall's ghost stories. I liked taking part in dance competitions, and if I remember rightly, Red House won it one year. I also took part in the school choir and in school plays. I remember one play called Scarborough Fair. I was in another play with some other students called The Good Companions, which was on TV. I remember people getting the bumps when it was their birthday, and I also remember the chicken run. Clay Hewick, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I remember watching Wimbledon instead of doing lessons in the summer. I remember doing lessons on the field and having grass fights. I remember that pudding with the pastry, jam, custard and coconut on top. I think it was called Manchester Tart. I can remember walking home from school with a boy, and I also remember the Nick Nurse. Gary Townsend, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I can remember going through a whole football season and winning every game and obviously winning the league. I can remember standing up in assembly the day after every game and reading the match report. Jean Negus, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. Happy memories of school 1970 to 1982. My favourite teachers were Miss Laurie Wilson and Mrs. Cook. I remember the blue team winning all the sports days. I remember playing Queen Bee and Mrs. Rook throwing the rolling pin at me in cookery. Linda Tinson, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I was at Broad Lane from 1970 to 1978. I was Linda Sigworth then, and they were the best school years of my life, and I have so many memories. I remember Dennis Epps because I was one of his favourites. I wasn't great at music though, which he taught. I remember having to make an instrument, and I got 2 plastic plant pots with brown paper on top as bongo drums. It took me about 5 minutes to make. Unlike some people's masterpieces, I once got 100 lines off Mr. X for peeping through one of the outside classroom windows when the lads were getting changed for football. He said that I had to write the lines in detention at lunchtime, as what would my parents think, taking lines home which read, "I must not watch the boys getting changed after football." Tony Hopkins, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I remember getting kneed in the balls by one lad, kicked in the head by another lad, and constantly picked on by another lad, and my sister went and swatted them out for me. Sharon Holsworth, Broad Lane Middle School Facebook group. I remember the school productions. There was always one going. Snow White, Noah's Ark, and then I moved on to play the violin until I got a big part. I wore a bear costume in Noah's Ark. Andrew Lebelski, Facebook friend. I was at Lawnswood High School. Mr. McCready's record club at break was where he played videos of the charts and played records. We could buy crisps and pop. We really enjoyed having a place where we could gather that was dry and safe. I think that's why I love 80s music so much, because record club was ace. Maureen Mary Gardner, health problems information, depression, anxiety chat, Facebook group. Because of my dad's health problems, I had to start school early, so I was in the nursery for 2 years. The first year my elder cousin was also in the class and he looked after me. I so looked up to him. The second year he had to move, but I had to stay where I was. I was too young for the second year and I was heartbroken. I didn't take exams again because of my dad's health. He was invalided out at Dunkirk. I had to leave school at Christmas to earn some money. Later in life I went to university and took a PG in counselling and a diploma in clinical supervision. The end. Thank you.